Just yesterday, Bandai revealed not only both the secret rares for OP12, but a whole bunch of SRs and a few more cards too. So I figured we'd do a special video taking a look at these. Otherwise, next week's This Week in One Piece would be incredibly long. Most of these cards seem very strong, and a couple of these seem to be tipping the scales a little bit. Let's jump straight into it, and first up is the main man that you're probably looking for, Kuma. This guy is crazy. I was expecting a Kuma leader in this set. We didn't get that. We got Koala, which is pretty cool too. We did get a Kuma secret rare. This is a 6/7 1k, which is a really good stat line with the Warlords of the Sea and Rev Army types. On play, you can trash one card from your hand, and then you get a heal from the top of your deck. Then this character gets +2 cost until the end of your opponent's next turn. So not only does this help fulfill your Koala's leader effect, to allow you to draw a card, but this also takes it out of the range of a couple of crucial on-curve removal pieces. For example, Jozu in decks like Doflamingo. Well, you're now an 8 cost, so they cannot mount you with Jozu, and the same goes for Gravity Blade Raging Tiger and the 7 cost Doflamingo. And also in those purple decks that like to ramp and get to the top a little bit before you, they cannot use Lin Lin to put this on life on curve. Of course, once that temporary +2 cost buff does fade away, then they'll be able to interact with it with these cards. However, at least on curve, this guy's sticking. And he also has opponent's turn on KO and the top card of your deck to the top of your life. So this guy heals on play, this guy heals when he dies. Really good card. It seems kind of bonkers, honestly. The fact that this has counter, mind-boggling. Like, if this was just a 6/7 with these effects and no counter, this would still be a really good card. But the fact this has counter too is brilliant. Now do note, this is only on KO, which does work for both effects and battle, but it won't work if your opponent removes it with an effect but does not KO it. For example, Red Rock will bottom deck it and you won't get the effect. 8 cost Katakuri can put this into life and you'll get no effect. And again, once that buff wears off, you can hit it with cards like Jozu, Raging Tiger, or Lin Lin. I don't think this is like the tier 0 Boogeyman card that some people are making it out to be, but make no mistake, this is an incredibly strong secret rare, and it's sure to make a splash in a bunch of different decks. So obviously this is going to be very good in Koala. It helps you fulfill your leading condition, it's in type, so it's searchable with a card that we'll cover very shortly, and getting a heal in a 4-life leader, always very good. But not only that, this is just a very generic yellow card, so I think you'll see this in a good variety of decks. Blue-Yellow Queen. For all the Queen enjoyers, this is like the second card now, right? That's been pretty cool for Queen. Helps you fulfill your leading condition to heal with Queen, whilst also ditching a card out of your hand to make your hand and life size a little lower. Maybe getting you a heal with your leader effect to turn earlier. In Vegapunk, this is sort of an alternative to some of the non-Egghead cards that they've played in the past. Rush 5 cost Ace has been pretty cool, as well as the 6 cost Lin Lin and the 8 cost Kid. However, this is like an alternative to that. If you wanted to play a bit more defensively, this is an incredibly strong card, and especially in Vegapunk, that life that you heal is more than likely a trigger. So that's pretty good. And if you play this out and get the heal off that, you can more likely use your leader effect to either heal twice in one turn, or develop another character to keep up the aggression. Enel has kind of fallen off a little bit since Raigo was banned, and I'm not sure this helps that much with that issue in that you cannot deal with big characters. However, the fact that this is a body like Kikunojo that your opponent is just not really going to want to deal with, especially by battle, is really nice for Enel. It gives him board presence so he can keep up aggression, and of course with that heal does give him defense too. So I do see people trying this in Enel. Not sure exactly how good it will be, but I imagine it will see some success. And also Red Yellow Sabo. There have been Revolutionary Army builds of Red Yellow Sabo that have been going around for a while with the like Ivankov, Karasu, Morley, Lindbergh package. And of course, that deck has the 1 cost Bello Betty Searcher, which can then search for this Kuma. And not only that, you can use your leader's Activate main to put the Kuma in life, because he's 7,000 power at base, to get 2 heals in 1 turn pretty easily. I do see this being a mainstay of the Rev Army build of Sabo. However, Sabo's got a few different builds, so not sure this will be in every one. Next up, we got this Koala, and this is a Spandam style searcher. 1, 2, Dressrosa, Rev Army, 1k counter. On play, if your leader has the Rev Army type, look at the top 3, reveal 1 card other than Koala with the type Rev Army or Nico Robin, add it to your hand, then trash the rest. So first things first, there's a bit of a theme with this Rev Army stuff that we're going to cover in the next few slides, where I'm building trash. And to be honest, I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's to combo with some Dressrosa cards that we've seen in the past, because Koala is a Dressrosa type leader. However, at least in type, doesn't seem to be much synergy with this, so I do expect we may well get a rare or an SR that interacts with your cards in the trash in this set. However, here are some of the targets that you can get off this Koala. Of course, all the new Rev Army stuff that we're getting in black on the previous slide with the Kuma, and on the future slides with these next few cards are going to be legal targets. We also have this yellow Kuma 2k that has a pretty decent trigger. Not the craziest card in the world, but is a nice searchable 2k with a decent effect. In terms of Nico Robins, we do have one Nico Robin to cover in just a minute. However, here are 2 old ones. You've got the 6 cost Robin that trashes a life. Probably not going to see play, but worthwhile putting on the slide. And we also have the 6 cost Robin from SC14. If we do entertain a removal build of Koala, this could be quite good. That requirement of having an 8 cost or higher character to get Robin's effect is going to be pretty reliable in a deck like Koala that's got lots of characters that can increase their own cost. So, for example, if you're playing the 8 cost Sabo in a deck like this, it might be shrewd to include at least a couple copies of the 8 cost Robin as well. We also got this Searcher event. It's the exact same as the Koala, except it's not a character, so it doesn't have any counter, but it does have trigger to activate main. Probably just worse than the Koala. Also can't get Nico Robin, so definitely worse than the Koala actually. But you never know, if we need more than 4 searchers, you could include this. Here's that Nico Robin I was talking about. This Robin is pretty good. This is a 6-7 with, if your leader is Koala or Luffy, this character gains blocker and 3 cost. So this becomes a 9-7 blocker on the board. Your opponent's not resting that outside of Hody Jones, and also becomes very hard to remove. 9 cost in particular is outside the range of even Katakuri, which is pretty cool. Not only that, but this character does do on play, you can trash 1 card from your hand. If everyone has 5 or more cards in their hand, your opponent trashes 2 cards from their hand. So you trash 1, they trash 2. Pretty good, right? So there's a few cards that we can compare this to. In black, Isho, pretty good comparison. He's a little bit more powerful, but has higher cost. He has, I would say, a better on-board effect. Don -1 to give -3 to everything. I think it's slightly better than just being a blocker. And he does hit random cards. But his threshold is slightly higher at 6 than Robin's at 5. So Robin definitely going to be easier to use than Isho. And coming down a turn earlier cannot be overlooked. In yellow, we have the yellow Big Mum. Same stat line. Very similar effect. You trash 1. Your opponent gets to either choose whether they want to trash 2 or trash a life. I think this card is strictly better than Big Mum, because if your opponent really doesn't want to trash 2 and wants to trash their life, they have that agency to do so. However, Robin doesn't give you that choice. It must be said that Robin does have a threshold. If your opponent has 4 cards in hand, this is shit. However, on 6 Don, where you're more likely to play this than not, it's very unlikely that your opponent's hand is going to be super low. I think 5 is quite reasonable. And of course, then being a blocker on board is no joke. 7k blockers are traditionally very good and often quite hard to come by. Not only can we play this in Koala, where it does, of course, let you meet your leader effect to draw a card, you can also play this in Black Luffy. If he has 1 Don on him and you have this Robin on the board, well, Luffy's now a 6k leader, which is pretty good. I think this is a very shrewdly designed card to work with both of these decks. You can also play this in Purple Black Luffy, but like, really? We've got better things to be doing in that deck. I think this card is very likely to see play in Koala. Maybe we'll see play in Black Luffy, but I'm not 100% on that. However, it is quite interesting. Don't think this card is as crazy as some people are making it out, but definitely very powerful. Next up, we got Ursus Shock. This is a 4-cost event with the Warlords and Rev Army types. And you can activate main, KO of 4. However, if you have a character with a cost of 8 or more, you can KO 6. Trigger is draw 1, trash 1 from the top of your deck. The same as the Usopp's rubber band trigger, which is kind of weird. Like I was saying, there's a lot of like mill effects in this Rev Army package, which doesn't seem to fit that well. So in terms of comparisons, the most obvious one is True No Bastardo. For some reason, the sim name is Destructive Sword of Thunder. I'm guessing this is a it's an interesting translation. Anyway, that card let you hit a 4, and then if you met the condition, which in this case was having 15 in trash, you could hit a 6. This card saw a little bit of play. I think Ursus Shock's effect is more reliable to have an 8-cost character, especially in a deck like Koala, than having 15 in trash. However, you've got to compare it to Finger Gun, right? Finger Gun is just very, very good. It's in the middle, can't hit a 6, but always hits a 5, and 5s have been very important recently in the One Piece trading card game. We'll see how that changes as we enter OP11 and OP12. We also have those starter decks, don't forget about those. But it's a hard sell for a very similar event to be better than Finger Gun. Of course, this is searchable if you're playing Black Rev Army, but this Finger Gun also having trigger to activate main, I don't know, I think Finger Gun is likely to just be better than the Ursus Shock. However, you never know. This next card is a little bit more interesting. This is a 1-cost event, the Waxing Fist. Impel Down and Rev Army types. Counter event, up to one of your leader or characters gains 2,000 power for the battle. Then if you have a Rev Army type character with a cost of 8 or more, that card gains an additional 2,000 power. So Rad Beam adjacent. In terms of meeting the condition, we currently have these cards that can help you meet that. Morley and Karasu and Kuma all have increased cost, but do note Kuma's is only on the turn he comes down. In terms of comparisons, Rad Beam is the obvious one. Rad Beam is much easier to use. You just have to be low on life, which realistically, when you're using these counter events, that's always the case. Waxing Fist, if they have managed to remove your characters, or if you're not playing with very heavy Rev Army themed build, this might be a bit less effective. And within Black, you can of course compare it to Barrier, as this translation has it down as. Barrier is a constantly memed about card in the One Piece card game. Everyone's like, oh, he's got one Don open in his Lucci deck. Does he have Barrier? That's like a little bit of a troll. But yeah, this card has not been very successful. Notably, Cross did play it in his Rebecca list just the other weekend, which is pretty bananas, but hey. I think this card is easier to use than Barrier, at least in the Koala deck. But whether you play this, it's really going to depend on how many of these large Rev Army characters we get. If all we have is like Morley and Karasu and Kuma's on play, I think it's unlikely to see much success. However, if we get a true 8 cost, this could be a really powerful inclusion. Next up, we've got this Ivankov. This doesn't make a lot of sense to me. This is a 3/4 blocker on play. If your leader has the type Rev Army, Mill 3. I've got to assume we're getting some kind of trash interaction with this deck, but like, this is ass. At least with current knowledge. Maybe in a week I'll look like a fool. We'll see some crazy combo, but for now, this looks like shit. Next up, we got this Bonney, and this is the other secret rare from the set. And this card, if I'm honest, it doesn't feel like a secret rare. This is the next in the chain of Queen adjacent cards. They seem to be like palette swapping Queen and changing up the effect a little bit for each color. And this is Green's one. And can I say, green has been one of the colors, if not the color, that's been sort of really looking for this style of effect for a long time. This is a 5/6 1k with the Supernovas and Bonney Pirates types. Supernovas, very good. You can search this not only off the Bonney Searcher and the More Pizza event, but also the 1-cost Luffy. It has Blocker, of course, and on play, if you have 8 or more rested cards, draw 2, trash 1. Then set one of your Don as active. So this kind of is an upgrade on Queen, but you do have that condition that you've got to meet. So you're not going to be playing this on 5, realistically, ever. However, as soon as your 6th Don turn, if you rest your leader, rest one character and rest the 6th Don, you can play this and get the effect, because this is rested cards. This counts Don cards, leaders, characters, and stages. Not that there are any green stages you're going to play, but hey. Of course, people are going to jump straight to Bonney. So Bonney card, let's put it in the Bonney deck. And whilst I do think this will be very powerful in Bonney as an option for a late game blocker, I think where, for me, this is most interesting is in Lore. Lore's been a deck that's been, like, kind of bad up until this point. But this is another supernova that you can use with your leader effect. And cheating out this girl, getting some cycle and having a nice big blocker could be quite compelling. Often the blocker lore, whilst powerful, can be difficult to use because you already have to bounce one character for your leader effect. So sometimes you don't have another character that you want to bounce for the blocker lore's effect. This just guarantees you the draw. No questions asked. And setting one more Don as active is always alright for your aggression. Of course, in Bonney, restanding that Don, that's going to let you hold just that one up for your leader effect. So you can do all your swings first, which is pretty cool. Not only that, but in red-green lore, this is another target for your leader effect, your shambles. You playing this for just 2 Don seems pretty nuts to me. Picking up a searcher, playing down this queen effect, and then you restand a Don. And in lore, you make so much use out of all your Dons. So I think this could be incredibly powerful in red-green lore. Also, a small nod, you can play this in Zorro. Realistically, this card is so generic, you can play it in pretty much any green deck, and it will be good. This card is not flashy, doesn't feel like a secret rare, but honestly, probably one of the better cards in the set, just in terms of staying power of the format going forwards. No matter how crazy the format gets, cards like Queen have continued to see success, and I think Bonney is no different. Also, you can play this off Rosie. It's another 5 cost, along with Cavendish, Smoker, and Carrot. You can play off Rosie and get a little bit of protection. Wonder if we'll start seeing the 8 cost Rosie pop back into decks. Maybe. Next up, we've got this Reiju, and this card is honestly, I think, a lot better than people are giving it credit for. This is a 4/5/1k with the Vinsmoke family and German 66 types. And it says, if your trash has 4 or more events, this character gains 2000 power and plus 5 cost. So again, it's another one of these really big blockers that they seem to be printing in this set. The opponent is just not going to be able to deal with outside of Holy Jones. 9/7 stat line for 4 Don is really bananas. This is a 4/7 at base as long as you meet this condition. And this is also a blocker. So not only is this just like a big guy, but this can block a swing on the turn it comes down. And then you've got the versatility of whether to attack with it or not. Of course, this condition is quite high. Designed for Sanji, who is going to be based around playing events with his Activate main. What events? Fuck knows. We haven't seen any of them yet. Bad Dice, show us the events. I want to evaluate this leader a bit more, but until we see the events... you can also play this in Sugar. Sugar loves her events, and this is another card that you can play in that. Nothing too crazy, but not a bad little piece of kit. You can also play this in Reiju, but honestly, you're already competing with the Reiju that draws 2 cards, and the 2k Reiju, so I'm not sure how much success this will see in Reiju, and she's not typically known for her events. You'd have to change the whole build to include a bunch of, like, the Searcher events, maybe Black Bugs, Raging Tigers, and it's like, at that point, surely you're better off just playing a different deck. So I'm not personally sold on this in Reiju, but you could. Also, this just has natural synergy with this Rosie. I think this Rosie is going to see more and more play as time goes on. If we get more event-focused decks, this just getting you that cycle and then restanding those Dons for you to use with your counter events is great. But in combination with this Reiju, you can trash one event, so you're one step towards her effect, and then with the 2 Dons you get it back at the end of your turn, maybe you can use another event, so that's halfway there. I think we're really sort of starting to see this Sanji package come together. We just need some bloody events. Next up, we got this Garp, and this is the Kuzan card. This is the only Kuzan card in the video, but it's pretty good. 8/8 Navy type. On play, you may trash 1 card from your hand, play 1 blue Navy character with a power of 8,000 or less other than Garp from your hand. And this is actually quite amusing. When you look at the blue Navy top end, it's all 8,000 power. It's kind of like they've been going towards this card for a while and we just didn't see it coming. But hey, we've got 3 targets currently for this. We've got the Aramaki, who is a nice big blocker. We've got Borsalino, who can help you with a bit of spot removal. And we've got that Kuzan that can deny an attack. And do remember, this trash 1, it's not really a cost because Kuzan says, draw another one. For example, on your 8 Don turn, you can use this Garp, Trash 1 to play out one of these guys, Kuzan to deny whatever your opponent played on 7, Borsalino if your opponent is playing a more low to the ground deck like Doflamingo, or Aramaki, you just want a blocker. Then you draw one off Kuzan, so you've got a Trash 1, draw 1, which is pretty cool. And you've then developed 2 8k power units, one of which may or may not be a blocker. Whilst this is not quite as good as the 9-cost Sanji, it's much easier to use because it all comes from hand. You don't have to deal with any deck stacking, so there's much less restrictions on how you have to build your deck. And you can also combo this with the 9-cost Sanji. If you want to play some kind of stacking build of Kuzan, maybe you play out a Doflamingo blocker on, for example, your 7 Don turn, then on 9, you can go Sanji into Garp, into maybe an Aramaki. That could be pretty crazy. Not sure that's going to be the most reliable, but even just at base, an 8k that plays out an 8k is nothing to be scoffed at. Next up, we got this Mihawk, and for me, this is one of the craziest cards that was announced. This is an 8/8 blocker, which very similar stats to Aramaki. However, on play, this guy sets 4 rested Dons as active. Then, you cannot play a character with an original cost of 7 or higher during this turn. Oh, and he has the Warlords and Muggy Kingdom types, but is also a slash character. That's, of course, very important for your Zoro deck. Then you can search him off of both the Hiyori and the Perona searchers. And in honestly, the Don Resan in this deck, I think it's going to get a little crazy. For example, if you play Cavendish on 6, and then you play Mihawk on 8, your Mihawk is going to stand 4 of your Dons back up, so you've got 4 active, 4 rested. Let's say you just limp swing 6 with Cavendish, he's going to stand 2 more. So you've then got 6 Don active, and you've played an 8k blocker for 2. Absolutely bonkers. Then with that 6 Don, all sorts of things you could do. One such thing, you could play out Smoker. You could play this for 5, restand 1 more. You've still got 2 Dons. You've developed a Smoker. You've developed a Mihawk. Honestly, man, the amount of value you're going to get out of your Dons is bananas. And this goes for the Smoker leader as well. This restanding 4, your leader restanding 2, and say you've got a Smoker on board, restanding 1. This becomes a 1/8. What the fuck, man? What are we doing? This is a 1/8. That's crazy. Obviously not quite as simple as that. That's using all your effects, and then you can't play any 7 costs. So you couldn't use that 7 Don, for example, to play Hody Jones. But you can use it for all sorts of stuff, realistically. This is going to be like a mega green card for a while, I think. Certainly in these more aggressive green builds. You could also play this in Bonney, and it could very well end up being very powerful in Bonney. But I think this effect sort of lends itself towards the more aggressive green decks. Although it would be kind of cool to see Bonney become an aggressive deck. Who knows? Last up, we got this Luffy, and this guy is not flashy, but he is pretty strong. There's a 4/4 1k with the Supernova and Straw Hat Crew types. Supernova is mostly relevant for your red-green lore, but Straw Hat Crew, obviously just probably the best type in the game, especially in red. Able to interact with things like Diablo Jamb, and the 2-cost Sanji 2k that gives you unblockable. And this guy, first, he has the effect that if you have 2 or more attached Don cards on your field, this character gains plus 2000 power. So this is, as long as you meet this condition, which is very simple to meet, this is a 4/6, both in your turn and your opponent's turn. Vanilla stat line. Not only that, he has an on-play. You can reveal 2 events, similar to pretty much every other fucking effect in Rayleigh. Play 1 red character with a power of 3000 or less from your hand. Then give 1 rested Don card to your leader, or one of your characters. So already at base, this guy's on play, fulfills half of his requirement, which is great. And what are we going to play out? Well, again, as it has been with all these Rayleigh cards, the best target is Sanji from OP10. If you're a red fan and you're planning on playing any of these sort of red aggro, low to the ground decks, get this Sanji. The Sanji's like not that expensive at the minute. I think it's a decent cop. But also in addition to this, you could play out, for example, a Buggy or a Dadan to get you another search. These have been popular in the traditional builds of Zoro, and I really do think this card could be very, very powerful for a traditional Zoro build. As long as there's not too much Lucci in the format, traditional Zoro is really powerful, and this is no exception. This cheating out like a Dadan or a Buggy is just going to be able to spread your board really wide, and giving that 1 rested Don obviously fulfilled your Zoro's leader effect. Do note you have to have these 2 events. So that could cause issues if you're not playing too many events. But the sort of buggy builds of Zoro, because you're playing buggy, you're already fairly high on events like Rad Beam, Jambay, and even now Mole Gun. So I don't think this is too out of the realms of possibility. This first effect is also basically free in the ST21 Luffy because he gives you lots of rested dons. You can use the on-play to put 1 on your leader, then use the leader's effect to put 2 on one of your characters, and immediately this guy is now 4/6. But of course this card was intended for Rayleigh. He has that base power of 4, so you can buff him, and this has the same cost that you need to reveal 2 events. All in all, I'm not going to lie, this card, whilst it is going to be good in the Rayleigh deck, I feel like it's just going to be better in Zoro, or maybe even ST21 Luffy. You can also play this in Dragon. Obviously, he likes having attached odds too. But I feel like the Rev Army build is probably just better for Dragon. They don't typically play a lot of low power characters. Although you could play this Sanji, and maybe we see a Straw Hat build of Dragon. I think this card is actually a lot better than some people are giving it credit for. I don't see a lot of chatter about this one. Mostly about the Kuma, honestly. But I do think this card is going to be really good for these low to the ground spam aggro red decks. And don't be surprised to see this topping regionals in OP12. Last minute addition, as I was editing this video, the last Haki event was released for the Rayleigh leader. This is Conquerors Haki, 0 cost event as expected with the former Roger Pirates types. And it has counter, give one of your characters or your Silver's Rayleigh plus 3,000 for the battle. So it's a 2k. Then you may rest one of your Don cards. If you do, give all of your opponent's leaders and characters minus 1,000 power for the turn. So this is a 2k. You can also use as a 1-cost counter event to give a -1 debuff to everything. This seems pretty decent. Obviously going to be pretty bad into top-end heavy decks like Red Shanks, because this -1, it's not going to do much into a 12k swing. But into decks that like to go wide and fast like Zoro or a Rayleigh Mirror or even a Doflamingo deck, this could be really powerful. Getting 1,000 power off, for example, 4 or 5 characters, it becomes a lot more valuable than a Rad Beam quite quickly into those go wide decks. Is this going to see play? Well, in Rayleigh, yes. In other decks, maybe not. The fact that you can't buff your leader with the first effect, if your leader is not Silver's Rayleigh, is quite a downside, and we have really good 2Ks in red anyway. Not sure. Probably not going to see much play, but if you are struggling with Zoro, for example, you could consider this card. And of course, in Rayleigh, this will be a 4 of. You need events. This is a 2k, and it has a decent little extra effect. That's it for the new cards. However, we did also get to look at all of the alt art leaders for this set. And man, these are bangers. I love these alt arts. These look clean. I think my favourite, honestly, might be the Sanji. The Sanji with the Zeph in the background. I don't know. There's something about this that looks really clean. I don't know if it's just the, what's this? The ledge that he's leaning on and the blue sky. I don't know. I really dig this one. I'm not even a big Sanji fan, but this looks sick. The Rose Dante with the lore in the background, pretty cool. I believe this is the snowy island where they got the Ope no Mi. And also you've got the Koala and Robin. This is just me. Robin looks like she's cross-eyed in this picture. I don't know what's going on here, but you know this is probably going to be the most expensive one. Not only does this look likely to be one of, if not the best leader in this set, but it's got boobies on it, so all the Kumas are going to be after this one. Moving on to the other 3, the Rayleigh and the Luffy. It looks good. It's nothing special to me, though. I don't think this one's too crazy. The Zoro and Mihawk, this is actually the pack art, which is pretty cool. Don't know the last time we saw the pack art appear as an alt art leader. I know OP01 has the red-green Luffy. Have we seen it since then? Let me know in the comments below. But yeah, this looks sick. Mihawk just looming there. He's such a cool-looking character. His aura is kind of crazy. So, you know this one was always going to be a banger. And Kuzan, as ever. This guy's alt art is just, like, always insane. The ice, I think, just lends itself really nicely to making clean alt arts. And big Garp face in the background is pretty funny. Reminds me of my thumbnails. All in all, I think my favourites of these are going to be probably the Sanji, but I also really like the Zoro and the Kuzan. Let me know what's your favourite alt art leader in the comments below. So thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought about my thoughts on these cards. Do you think I've underrated anything? Or do you think I've overrated anything? Let me know which is your favourite in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.